Final Fantasy VII Rebirth does a great job tutorializing many of its systems, but it throws so much at you so quickly it can be hard to keep up. Between synergy skills,
Couldn't have gone any better.
synergy abilities, backline attacks,
Let me at her.
Materia, Folios, and whatever the hell Red 13 is doing here, it's a lot to take in. Here's 12 essential tips and tricks for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. We'll do a few of the vital combat tips up front, and then move on to general exploration. If you want a more in-depth combat guide, make sure to check out our full combat tips video. For the first 20 hours or so of Rebirth, I was still playing it a lot like Remake, only using standard attacks to build ATB until I built enough meter to use abilities, items, or magic. But Rebirth throws a huge wrinkle into combat by allowing you to perform two different types of team-up attacks, synergy skills, and the more powerful synergy abilities.
I'm in.
And while several ATB uses are necessary to build up the synergy charges for synergy abilities, you can use synergy skills without any sort of extra resource involved. Synergy skills change depending on what combination of characters are in your active party, and have amazing utility, allowing melee characters to launch into the air,
Come on.
On it.
Break it. Thanks.
repositioning squishy allies and instant guarding, sending attacks back at your enemies,
Come on.
Okay.
and launching powerful strikes without spending resources. All these combinations of party members can be hard to keep straight, so keep in mind that by default, offensive synergy skills are set to R1 plus square or triangle, and defensive skills are set to R1 plus X or circle. Also, the icons on the buttons will tell you whether to tap or hold the button to use it correctly. For synergy skills you have to hold, you don't need to keep holding the face button. While guarding, tap the face button to initiate the command, and keep holding guard until you want to perform it. Synergy skills also build two characters' ATB meters at once, meaning you don't have to switch to someone in attack to be able to use abilities, cast spells, or use items. It's really worth it to get used to these early.
Here goes.
Aerial combat in FF7 Remake was a bit messy, as Barret and Aerith were the only ones who could do it reliably, so Cloud and Tifa felt a bit useless in those moments by comparison. Rebirth gives myriad ways for melee characters to attack airborne enemies, such as the aforementioned synergy skills, like Aerith's Heavenly Ascent. With Cloud, after dodging, your attacks will be projectiles, and if you hold the attack button, you'll zip up to airborne enemies. Experiment in the combat simulator with different combinations to figure out your preferred way of taking the fight to the skies, and keep in mind when selecting your party that some characters, such as Red 13, while being very strong on the ground, are not nearly as effective against aerial enemies.
Not enough.
The small symbols and black boxes at the bottom of the screen when selecting them in combat tell you which properties that ability has, such as building stocks for synergy abilities, an ability that will launch you airborne, or an ability that can be used in the air. They're really small on screen, so you'll need to actively look for them or check the in-game manual for refreshers until you remember which ability has which effect. You can very quickly change your party members in the field by bringing up the command menu and pressing R1 and L1 to toggle between your three pre-made party makeups. This is a good way to quickly swap out a party member with low health or MP in favor of a fresh one and avoid having to use an item or healing spell. If you do need to use items or cast healing spells, hold L1 while selecting them to enable multi-use. This means you can keep the menu open and keep selecting options. Otherwise it'll close every time you use something. Other than actually fighting, Chocobos can do pretty much everything you can while on foot. You can open chests, pick up resources, traverse the environment, and even repair Chocobo stops, the small blue bus stop looking areas with the fallen sign, without ever getting off. Collecting resources is actually quicker on Chocoback because one button press will pick up all the items grouped together on the ground. Also, when you start a fight while riding, Cloud does a cool flip. That's reason enough for me to stay mounted right there.
I've confirmed Protorelic energy signals in your vicinity. Would you mind investigating?
One of the best ways to explore the open world areas is to follow the Protorelic quest, also called the Phenomenon Intel. These quests are multi-part that take you all across the nearby area, so by choosing this as your active mission, you'll naturally come across a majority of what the zone has to offer as you travel from place to place.
Anything interesting catch your eye, Kupo?
Moogle medals make a return in Rebirth, and they're a very valuable resource, especially for expanding your character folios. They can be used at the Mogstools, the mushroom houses the Moogles reside in, after you complete the Moogle Mischief minigame for each one. You can repeat these Moogle Mischief minigames as many times as you want, and you'll receive a medal for each completion. You'll also find a lot of them in the breakable crates spread throughout the world, especially on or around Rimna Wave towers. Even if the switch to activate the tower is at the base, always climb up to the top and collect all the medals you can. When picking up resources from the ground, check the notifications on the right side of the screen. Sometimes you'll already have 99 of an item and won't be able to pick it up, but the marker won't stay on the ground, so you'll just lose it for good. If you ever get one of these notifications, make sure to jump into the item transmutation menu and make something with that resource so you can pick up future ones. And while we're on the topic, item transmutation is great for keeping your healing items stocked, and even creating equipment or completing side quest tasks. The only way to gain experience and gain levels in the transmutation menu is to make something for the first time. So even if you don't plan on using it, make at least one of them so you can level up and unlock better chips for future creations. Also, make use of the to-do list as it will notify you with a purple box on screen that you now have the correct materials for the item you want to transmute. You can also turn excess iron ore and planet's blessings into accessories, which then sell for more gil than the components sell for individually. If you can't find a particular resource, press the touchpad to closely inspect the materials and find out where to get them. Assessing enemies will also tell you which resources they drop. And speaking of chips, the excavation intel tasks in the big open zones always unlock new transmutation chips, usually for equipment, so make sure to complete these. If you don't have the excavation intel unlocked yet, you'll need to do a few of the life spring intel tasks, and it'll be marked on your map for your Chocobo to go sniff out. Not all side quest completions are created equal. Whether you made non-optimal choices or didn't gather every resource that you could, it's possible to turn in side quests when they're not fully done, diminishing the rewards. To check whether or not you fully completed a side quest the right way, make sure you have this gold star next to it on the quest menu. If you didn't, it'll just have this gray tick. Doing the rough math, FF7 Rebirth is about 11 billion times bigger than Remake. Unfortunately, for save-scumming sickos like me, you still only get 10 manual save slots and 1 autosave. You will unlock a chapter select after completing the game, however, so not all is lost. But in the meantime, use these slots wisely. Speaking of being a sicko, I'm a stickler for in-game clocks being correct, so I know how long I've been playing. Thankfully, like Remake, the in-game timer will stop if you open the pause menu and don't touch the controls for 3 minutes. It doesn't stop instantly, as you'll be in the menus quite often and that is still counted as playing the game, but if you have to leave it running, it'll turn gray after about 3 minutes.
Lead the way.
And those are our 12 essential tips and tricks for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. We'll have a ton more in the future as this game is super big. Make sure to check out our combat video and interactive map on IGN.com, and for everything else Final Fantasy, keep it right here on IGN.